The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. We're so thrilled to be here with you live on this Wednesday, the day before we celebrate Thanksgiving here in the United States. There's a buzz in the air. Oh my goodness, right? It's important that we all stay sane. I know the elves are busy at work. There's a lot of things that are happening here because we have our Sensitive Santa event happening this Saturday. Wah! Here in Los Angeles. It is taking place at the We Rock the Spectrum in Woodland Hills. I know many of you around the country are getting your Sensitive Santa events ready as well. We're so thrilled for us to be doing our second annual one, and very exciting. But there are other people who are preparing turkeys, and there are all kinds of things going on.
We're so excited.
And now we just switched to me on a different day. But that's okay. Are we coming back to me live? We're so excited about so many things and things that are coming up. So, because in a second, you're going to see what you just saw there for a second. Because I have some news about today. I know I sent out a big PR thing letting people know that our lineup today was that we were having Ask Dr. Doreen this morning. And then in our second hour during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, we've got Temple Grandin. And that's, I want you to know we still have Temple Grandin. You're going to be watching Temple Grandin in the second hour. Unfortunately, though, we don't have Dr. Grant Pichet this morning. Now, before you all turn off and say, oh, that's it, I'm done, I'm going away, I want to remind you of two things. First of all, we've got something really great for you, okay? So don't go away. But the other thing is that our deal here always is that we want to help and support the autism community. And we have our experts that come in, but we have to be reasonable and understand that our experts sometimes are going to get called away to do something really important. And for any of you who are dealing with red tape right now and calling and making phone calls saying, what can I do? I need to be able to help my child. And people are telling you, oh, that person is already away for Thanksgiving. I want you to know that Dr. Grant Pichet is hard at work, so hard at work trying to get things done before everything closed down today that she was like, I don't want to let your viewers down. And I said, no, we know that sometimes you have to go help do other things. So we excused her from today. We will have her back next week. But I would not leave you hanging, right? So instead, we've been waiting for the ideal time. We had in the studio a couple of weeks ago our unicorn. Yes, Dr. Linda Copeland was with us, and we call her the unicorn because she is both a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst, and she is a pediatrician, a fabulous practicing board certified pediatrician. The two things together. That's why she's the unicorn, because that just doesn't exist anyplace else. So we're going to show you that tape in just a minute. Then we're going to come back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And then, my friends, we have a great interview that's never been shown because we just taped it 2 days ago with Temple Grandin. It is not live, but it has not been seen by anybody but myself and Samantha and Dr. Grandin. So there you have it. And we're going to debut that here, and it's 2 days old, so fresh off the press. Okay, a couple of things that I want to remind you of. See, I get so excited. But we want you still to be interactive with us all morning long. Dr. Copeland's going to be answering some questions that you guys sent in specifically about sleep and about I just drew a complete and total blank. I'm that excited. But sleep is a big enough thing. Oh, genetics. That's the other thing that we talked about, genetics. And should you bother to get the genetic testing? And is it going to help you? I mean, you got your plate full. Is it really going to do something to help you? So she's got some really interesting insights for you about that. Okay. But remember, it's meant to be interactive. Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate, some of the different ways that you can write in your questions. Even for Dr. Copeland and Dr. Grandin, you can be writing in those questions because guess what? We talk to them on a regular basis. So feel free to participate. And after you guys had written in some questions from last week's interview with Dina Kimmel when we went around the world with We Rock the Spectrum. And I'm going to address some of those when we come back from the Dr. Copeland interview. So I also want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, make sure that you check out all the different buttons that there are on that website. You can watch the live show by clicking on the triangle that's on the computer screen. That will start the live show or the most recently recorded live show. Now to the side is the live feature. Now we had some folks who joined us for the first time over the weekend and had never seen the show before, and we got a lot of comments saying, is this thing, interactive? Is this thing live? And people saying, can we ask questions? Can we ask for advice? You absolutely can. It's just that if you write in when we're not live, we won't address it until we're live. It just sort of works that way. But please write in your questions and we're here to answer them. And we don't have to be live for you to ask a question. You just go right ahead and ask the question and I come in and check them before we do a live show. All right, so my apologies that I don't have Dr. Grandpichet for you, but I got a unicorn for you instead. Happy Thanksgiving. Make sure that you stick around because in the second hour, it's Dr. Temple Grandin, but in this hour, it's Dr. Linda Copeland. Take a look. Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so excited because so many of you have written in and asked, where is Dr. Copeland? When are you going to have Dr. Copeland on? And others of you have written in and said, where is the unicorn? Meaning the same thing, right? Well, she's here with us in the studio instead of via Skype, and this is a rare treat. Welcome.
Treat for me as well. Thank you, Shannon.
And for those of you who are new to the show, we for the longest time, we would have Dr. Copeland once a month, and we changed our viewer schedule, and we've been working it out, but we lost that time to convene with you because we've been out filming other things. But thrilled that we had an opportunity to have you here in the studio. If you're wondering, why do you call her the unicorn? Well, let me just tell you that we love having BCBAs on the program. That's a fabulous thing, and we do that on a regular basis. And Dr. Copeland is a BCBA. Well, okay. There are a lot of BCBAs, right? Occasionally, on a rare occasion, we get to have a pediatrician who's on the show as well. And while that's much more rare, there are a lot of pediatricians in the world, right? But guess how many people in the United States are pediatricians and BCBAs? Well, it's kind of a unicorn thing, and that's what she is, and that's why we call her the unicorn. So she is both a board-certified behavior analyst and a licensed pediatrician. So we love having her here so that we can run some of your ideas by you. Since we have a limited amount of time, what we did was we took a bunch of questions that you guys have written and squished them all together because we've had so many questions about bedtime and sleep. So we squished all of your questions together to say, Dr. Copeland, how do I get my child to sleep?
That is such a big issue that comes up so often in pediatrics, and it also comes up even more often with children with autism spectrum disorder, because about 80% of children with autism can go through a phase of some sleep issues.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that high.
Yes, yes, and it doesn't just go away with time, but we know a lot now. There's a lot of good scientific research showing that it isn't so much something that's hardwired in the brains of most children with autism spectrum. It's more this related to the learning difficulties that a child with autism can have. Just as they can have difficulty learning to talk, to express their wants and needs, they can have difficulty learning good sleep habits, and they easily get into a pattern of poor sleep habits that can be challenging to change, but we know more and more how to change those sleep habits and how to empower parents to teach their children good sleep habits.
This is really exciting because, first of all, what I'm hearing is it's not our imagination if our kids
Right.
have sleep problems. It's not our kids' fault in terms of there's not something in them that's, not working, and it's not our fault, but there's stuff that we can do about
Exactly.
it. That's, I'm sure that it won't be easy, quote unquote easy, but we can if we really want, because for us, it ends up us getting sleep too, right?
That's
if our
right.
kids
It
don't
impacts
get sleep,
family sleep.
the whole family starts to go down the tubes. So, all right, Dr. Copeland, I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but what can we do to empower ourselves?
Well, there's 5 strategies that a parent can use, and a lot of this is known from sleep medicine, but some of the most powerful strategies actually come from behavior analysis. How do you deal with the child who refuses to get to sleep and has all kinds of nighttime bed problems? They refuse to get in bed or put on their pajamas, or they get in bed and then they get out of bed and they're calling for you and they want one more drink or one more hug. Well, we know these 5 behavioral strategies that we can inform the parents about how effective they are and why they are so important. Parents get desperate for their children to sleep. They'll try to find whatever works. And kids with autism can pick up on bad routines, and then the parent kind of gets reinforced in the bad routine, and then we have a bad habit that goes on for a while. But we have ways to reverse those bad habits as long as the parents understand how they can fine-tune what they do that'll actually improve their child's learning. So first is having a good sleep schedule. The child, it's like Goldilocks and the porridge. It shouldn't be too hot or too cold. It's got to be just right. So the child shouldn't be in bed too long or too little. Children of different ages will need different amounts of sleep. Younger children tend to need more sleep, and they may need a nap during the day as well. Around about age 4, some kids really don't need naps, and that's okay. But a 4-year-old still does best on about 11 hours of sleep. Even 12 to 18-year-olds do best on about 9 hours of sleep. And those are averages. Some people may need less or a little bit more, but you want to kind of aim at least towards that average. That's one. And not putting them to bed too early. We have crazy things like daylight savings time. Human beings are not born to sleep in the day. We are built to sleep at night. And in the summertime, when it's still bright daylight out at 7 p.m., probably not the best time to ask a child to go to sleep. The other thing is we all have a biological clock, and everybody's biological clock is kind of unique to them, and a lot of our bodily functions follow that biological clock, but part of that clock is our areas of peak alertness, and then less alertness, and then some more peak alertness, and less alertness, and falling to sleep. Well, our biggest area of peak alertness is like late afternoon to early evening. If your child is in their peak alertness state, that's not the time to put them in the bed. We call that the forbidden zone. So you kind of have to know your child's energy pattern and help them adjust their energy pattern. So maybe they have more active activities earlier during the day, and as you get closer and closer to approaching bedtime, giving them some choices of more passive activities, helping them wind down their biological clock. But if you can see they're totally full of energy, that's not the time for the big good night. Okay. It's maybe time for a little passive winding them down. That's one thing that will help, is optimizing their sleep schedule.
Setting ourselves up for success.
Exactly.
But a lot of times we forget that, you know, and we're tired, so we go, okay, I'm going to put them to bed because I'm tired, and we get into a tussle.
Or I need time to talk with my husband, or do what I need to do, right, and then it can be a tussle. So in the long run, we can prevent their sleep interfering behaviors if we understand their biological need.
Okay.
And then we want to optimize their bedroom condition. Not, again, it's like Goldilocks in the porridge, not too hot, not too cold. We don't want them shivering. We don't want them sweating up a storm either. Right. We actually fall asleep a little easier if our body temperature is a little cooler.
Okay.
So it helps to have the shower or the bath and the exercise a little earlier, and at the very start of the winding down in the bed routine. Give your body time to cool down after that warm bath or shower. So that can help. And we sleep better in the dark, so you want the ambient light to be getting less and less. A little night light is okay because that's not direct lighting across the eyes, but you absolutely have to be careful about the electronics and screen time. Any screen time, iPad or television right before bed, you're getting a lot of direct lighting right across your eyes. It goes to the retina and deep in the brain. Our brain makes melatonin, we make it in the dark. And if we get a lot of direct lighting across our eyes right before we go to bed, totally interferes with our brain's ability to make melatonin. And our brain making melatonin is critical to our sleep cycle. So just really understanding the importance of, if your kid loves electronics, we want to use those as reinforcers. Lots of access to that, maybe for up to about 45 minutes before that desired big good night. And you got to lock those electronics away.
Okay.
And no televisions in the bedroom.
Now, is that the same with the light being on in the room? So if you're reading to them, or can you?
Great question. That the light on in the room, if you just have a little night lamp with a shade enough to look at the picture book, that's not such direct lighting across the eyes. That's okay. And same with a night light. A little dim night light is okay.
All right, fabulous.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. And was there one more, or was that all?
Oh, no, there's 5 steps at all. We did the sleep schedule, and then a little bedtime routine, as well as optimizing the bedroom conditions. So getting into a little, children on the autism spectrum, they love routine, and routine can be very soothing. So kind of moving from more active to passive activities, as we talked about, maybe giving them a little choice board where they can pick, but you deliberately make the choices closer to bedtime, a little quieter and calmer. It's good if you can teach them a love of looking at storybooks with you, because that's a perfect bedtime routine, that sort of thing. And then we need to look at what we call their sleep dependencies. So we as human beings, we get this strong association of whatever is there when we try to get into a quiet state and close our eyes and not move, hoping to fall asleep. Whatever conditions are in the room and around us as we're falling asleep, we strongly associate those as cues for sleep. So if mom has to lie down next to us for us to fall asleep, we strongly start to feel we need that to fall asleep. That is our cue to fall asleep. Unfortunately, that's not a cue that we can live with the rest of our lives, because at some point mom's going to need to fade herself out and not lay down next to us as we fall asleep. So why not start now and while your child's young, fade out those sleep dependencies that can't be there when the child's a little older, can't be there all night long, but replace them with other good sleep dependencies that are easy and portable and can be there all night long. So research has shown that continuous white noise sound machines, white noise, by white noise we mean it's a non-repeating noise. It's totally unpredictable. It's kind of like a whooshing sound, and it's very soothing to the brain. And they make these machines that just play all night long. And so if you start to turn on that white noise machine as you're first laying down, and you just stand up and maybe stand by your child's bed while the white noise is playing, and then you back up a step or two while the white noise is playing, then you stand in the doorway while the white noise is playing. Eventually you fade mom out or dad out, and the white noise takes over as being that healthy sleep dependency that can be there all night long. And other things like that too. You want to look at whatever the child might depend. Do they fall asleep on the sofa in front of the television? Okay, how can we change that? Do we have to pat them to sleep or rock them to sleep? How can we get these healthy sleep dependencies? Would be like having a favorite pillow. The sleep dependencies are like signals or cues that sleep is available, and sleep, it turns out, is a powerful natural reinforcer. It's very, very powerful. We want our children to learn how to collect this beautiful, healthy reinforcer.
It's funny because little kids don't get that. It must take like about 30 years for people to get that, because at 30 years old we go, oh, I get to go to bed, instead of I have to go to bed. So it takes a little longer for us.
Well, and you don't want too much of a difference in the fun factor between, oh, the warm living room where I've got my iPad and I'm playing this really cool game with mom and dad, and the cold, dark bedroom up there, and there's no fun. So we got to leave out something a little fun for the bedroom. bedroom. That's where the bedtime story comes in.
Yes.
That's done in the bed, and that's still fun. And or promising something, a little surprise under your child's pillow, either a picture icon showing their favorite thing in the morning, chocolate pancakes for breakfast, or a little note or something. So you keep a little bit of a fun factor in the bedroom so it doesn't seem too isolated. That special time with mom or dad looking at the stories together.
You know, we're getting ready to start our Festival of Toys, and one of my favorite things that we ever featured was Uncle Milton has a whole line of night lights that are specific. You know, they have different characters that they do.
Wonderful.
They have some that are, it's called The Moon in My Room, and it's a moon, and there's a clicker with it that they can put it on whichever phase of the moon that they want it to be on, so it can be really
love
educational.
that.
They have other things that play, like there's, if your kids are into like animals and things, they have one that's the Wild Kingdom, and it has a light that's on a timer, and it also, you have an option of putting noises on that are sort of white noises but jungle noises, that it has a timer and it goes off after a period of time. And kids love those. They love to go to their bedroom and it's time that they get to turn on their night light and do all that.
That can include the good fun factor and be a little bit of an activity that they can share with mom or dad in a social way. The only thing you'll have to be a little careful about that, if they actually fall asleep to the jungle noises and then the jungle noises turn off, that might be an issue. Because even listening to music or the radio, if you get dependent on that, or a television show, if the exact same television show or song is not on, you might wake at night. But that idea of, you have this little night light and it's the moon, that can be a very healthy sleep dependency and a fun thing to share with mom and dad. And you talk about the phases of the moon.
Whether it's, Jem has one still in his room. We don't use it as a nightlight anymore, but it's on his wall. And we used to talk about whether it was waxing or waning or gibbous or I don't even know what that means.
And that's some good social time plus learning time. So that's a great example of a passive but fun activity that means the fun factor in the bedroom, but a relaxing fun factor.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a great idea. So a favorite pillow, a favorite blanket, a favorite stuffed animal can be okay, but if you're doing that, you might want to have bed rails on your child's bed, because if the stuffed animal falls out of the bed and they can't find it in the middle of the night, they may wake up. Because here's the thing, we don't sleep deeply all night long. It's not like sleep is one thing. Sleep has its different cycles too, and we'll have periods of deeper sleep, especially when we first fall asleep, and then periods of lighter sleep that happens about 8 to 10 times at night. And the thing is, if what we fell asleep with isn't there when we have those lighter sleep, we'll tend to wake all the way up.
Okay.
So that's the beauty of a white noise sound machine. You just put it on to play all night long.
Okay.
But you could put those little dim moonbeams on all night too.
Very cool. Yeah.
So that could be a very healthy sleep dependency. So getting healthy sleep dependencies plus the right sleep schedule actually helps solve a lot of nighttime waking in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And then for the sleep interfering behaviors, I, as a medical doctor, I had been taught this cold turkey method. Bless Dr. Ferber, he was just really trying to help parents, but he was saying it was okay to let your baby cry themselves to sleep.
Okay. So he was the captain of that whole thing of let them cry it out.
Yeah, and it
Let's
turns
find
out
him.
it's just
He
so
meant well,
hard to
but,
do. It was too hard for me to do as a parent.
It doesn't feel right.
But we've got a lot of research since then that we can soften that. That's called extinction. And extinction never feels good either for the child or the parent.
Right.
But there's things like time-based visiting. I love the idea of time-based visiting. You can start it right in infancy, but you can also use it on all children, including your child with autism spectrum disorder. And it's this idea that after you've kissed them goodnight, the first night especially, you're just going to revisit them really often. So often that what they start to learn is, I may fuss, and whether I fuss or not, you're going to come back and see me, but you're always going to come back and see me. So why don't I just relax, and I can stop moving, I don't have to try or struggle, I can close my eyes and you'll still come back and see me. So the first night, the parent actually comes back about 7 times per night and visits them. It's like no sooner that they kiss their child goodnight than 10 seconds later they're back.
Right.
And then 30 seconds, just tuck them in.
Right.
And bid goodnight again, and they're back at 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then each night you fade it out. So Night 2, you don't do the 10-second visit, just the 30-second visit in the minute. And then night 3, you fade out the 1 minute and you go 30 seconds and 3 minutes. So each night you fade it back. So by night 7, you only have to revisit them at 5 minutes, reassure them. And when you revisit them at 30 minutes, almost invariably they're asleep by then. Because we want our children, a child who really knows how to sleep will learn to fall asleep in 15 to 20 minutes after the bid good night. That's how we define good sleep. So this time-based visiting, while it's kind of a lot of, it seems like a lot of work up front, but oh wow, it's so powerful and it's really worth it. And it gets rid of that extinction burst that the kids can have. Because if you let them cry them out, they'll kind of worsen, and then it's hard to get through that burst of worsening. With things like time-based visiting and this other thing I'm going to talk about, the bedtime pass, we don't get that burst of worse behavior. So it's really a good treatment for these sleep interfering behaviors.
I love that, because you know, it's great that we don't get that behavior, but we don't get the anxiety in the child, which is what nobody says. Oh, I know, I want to put my child in a cold, dark bedroom and hope that they feel bad. That's not what anybody's going for at bedtime. We want the cozy little, you've been tucked in, you're so loved.
Yes, exactly. And the time-based visiting just totally reassures the child. And it's not contingent on the child being good and not crying or fussing or not trying to get out of bed. You're going to revisit them anyway. Hopefully by visiting them really often, at first it'll be before they even have a chance to misbehave and show those sleep interfering behaviors. But whether or not, you still go back on that specific time schedule. And most of the time what they learn to do is relax.
But I would guess that if you go back in and the child isn't behaving or is in the process of getting up in the bed, that it's really important not to engage in a whole discussion about it or anything. Just you know, tuck them back in, and you know, not pay a whole lot of attention to what's happening. Just, you know, calm, loving, and
because that's what they really want. They want your attention.
And we don't want to give attention
in a negative way. So it's just the attention of, I'm here to tuck you back in safe, and you got me. So it's okay. You can relax about it.
We don't have to get emotionally engaged.
No nagging, no scolding. It's just a nice retuck back in bed.
I don't know whether it's all parents, but autism parents, we like to talk about it. It's almost as if, because our kiddos a lot of times didn't come to language later, that we feel like we have to run our mouths about it. Oh, there you are getting out of bed again. Now I told you that you weren't going to get out of bed. Now we're going to put you back in bed, and then I'm going to leave it, which sounds like womp up, womp up, womp up, right? We need to just zip it.
And the gentle tuck into bed and another kiss, and then we leave. Again.
In and out.
And then the other, and all these methods have been researched, and they've been researched with typically developing children, and they've been researched with kids with autism spectrum disorder, and they're effective in all cases. It's just learning how to fine-tune them. There's some trick to fine-tuning and supporting ourselves as we're really trying to teach these skills to our children for good sleep. So the other technique is called the bedtime pass. And this was developed by Dr. Pat Fryman, a famous behavioral psychologist. And he gets actually a laminated pass, and it's good for either one trip out of bed or one trip of the parent back into the bedroom. And if the child has a lot of sleep interfering behaviors, then you can actually give them a lot of bedtime passes at first. And you'll honor, as long as they have a pass, you honor their request. Oh, I want to come out, I have to use the bathroom. I want to come out, I need a drink of water. Oh, I want to come out, I need another hug. I want you to come in here with one more short story. But when they run out of passes, then you, the parent, have to get really good and say, no more. You've used up your passes. And then each night you fade out the number of passes till you get it down to eventually just one. And then you can get really clever and say, if you hold on to your pass, in the morning, you can trade it in for some super duper powerful reinforcer you really want. And that works really good for the anxious children, because the anxious child, they're so anxious, they're thinking, okay, I'm feeling a little anxious. I want to know my mom or dad are already going to be there, always going to be there. Okay, I got my pass. I know as long as I've got my pass, I know I can always get them back. Okay, do I want to call now? Well, I want to hold on to this because I want to know I can always get. And then they fall asleep.
Right.
And it reassures them if they
Yes.
hold on to the past that they know they can always get you back. And then they're super excited to turn it in the morning. So really the bedtime pass works great with
We
anxious
love the
children.
bedtime pass here. In fact, we had for a while the template so people could just download it and print it and laminate
Yeah.
it themselves. And we'll see if we still have that we could put up for you guys. But they also have tons of them on Pinterest. You can go on Pinterest and put bedtime pass, and they have them all different, designs and different things. Absolutely love it. And it was something that worked really great with my son. So I can speak with all authority that, it really does and can work. We thought it was great. And eventually he told us, he goes, I don't need that bedtime pass
Anymore. Right. You
Like,
let the
I'm
kid be the
done.
one to choose to give it up. And early on, a good combination. So a major sleep researcher that CART is actually networking with, Dr. Greg Hanley, he says, why not combine best of the best? He likes to combine both the time-based visiting and the bedtime pass. And he finds that really solves a lot of the sleep interfering behaviors. That's in a
Love it.
very powerful way. All based on a lot of positive reinforcement and then nurturing. And
Absolutely. And it's easy enough to do. That's the other thing
Yeah.
that I love about that. Okay, do we leave anything out?
Well, there's a time and place for melatonin. There's no other medication that, well, there are other sleep medications that can make a child fall asleep. It's not with a good quality of sleep.
Okay.
The sleep architecture, what sleep medicine doctors talk about, is not good. Whereas melatonin, when your child drifts into sleep, it's with normal sleep quality. It's good sleep quality and architecture. So if need be, families can use melatonin, but if you're going to use it, you give it about 30 to 45 minutes before bedtime. But kids can develop a tolerance to it.
Okay.
And it doesn't necessarily keep them awake all night long. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily help them sleep all night long.
Okay.
They might still have a tendency towards nighttime waking. Extended release melatonin might help that. Over time, the more they use melatonin, they might develop a tolerance to it. So while melatonin can be life-saving and really help a family and a child, it's not something you want to be dependent on every night forever. They'll maybe need some vacations from it. And it doesn't totally solve their sleep habit learning issues.
Yeah.
So it's still, even if melatonin is helping your child, it's okay to use. But it's good to still work on teaching these good sleep habits and doing these 5 steps where you have a good sleep schedule, a good bedroom conditions, good nighttime routine, and healthy sleep dependencies, not unhealthy ones, and that you're working on compliance with the good sleep, but nighttime behaviors, so they're not interfering behaviors.
Okay, but main thing I think for all of us is to acknowledge that if we're overwhelmed and underslept, it's hard to implement any behavior intervention. So you got to get a little bit of rest yourself, and that might mean having somebody spell you for a day or two while you get some sleep, and then you implement these things. You got to
Very important point.
Stick to what you're doing, know clearly what you're doing, but this is something that is to be prioritized early on in any program. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, do it now, because once your child is getting good sleep, we see improvement in how much they acquire
in
skills.
learning and their mood and their behavior. Yes. I should mention, we've got to make sure that the child doesn't have a medical sleep condition, because there are things like, it's not rare at all in childhood, what we call obstructive sleep apnea. And that's from really large tonsils and large adenoids blocking the airway when the child lays down. They're often loud nighttime snorers, and then the parent can actually hear there's long pauses in their breathing. Anything like that suspected medical, the parents need to talk with their child's doctor. They can do sleep studies through the night with polysomnographs, looking for evidence of either obstructive sleep apnea, or if the brain is not triggering the right level of breathing during sleep. That's called central hypoventilation. A good sleep study can pick up on that, because that will need to be medically addressed.
Okay.
That's not the most common causes of sleep problems. the most common are this lack of learned skill for good sleep habits, and that we can treat behaviorally. But we also have to make sure we're not missing medical issues.
Okay, very, very important. And we should say briefly that CARD and with you, they're involved in a study. And if you are a CARD family, you're a CARD parent, and you have a child between the ages of, is it
2 and 12?
2 and 12. So if you have a child who's being treated at CARD, you are eligible to see if you can participate in this study. Where can they go to get more information about that, Dr. Copeland?
Well, we'll have it on CARD SharePoint, and you can talk with your BCBA supervisor, because all of our supervisors are getting training in evidence-based behavioral sleep treatment, and it's your supervisor and your ABA team that will be sitting down with you if you want your child to participate in the study, and if they're eligible, because they're between the ages of 2 and 12 and they don't have medical problems like seizures or sleep apnea, they can be in the study. Your supervisor will do a sleep assessment and treatment tool, the SAT tool, and go over to you in great detail so we can individualize your child's sleep program. And you as a parent have a lot of choice as to what sleep treatments you want to use. Do you want to use the time-based visiting and the bedtime pass and so forth? So I would start by talking with your supervisor, and then they in turn can contact myself, and parents can also call in our Sacramento CARD office, 916-374-0800. That's another option, but the study is going to be involving the supervisor supporting the parents, and the parents actually do the sleep treatment, but we're going to be totally there for your support. We also, during the study, we do some nighttime videotaping. It's not every night, but I would, the treatment phase where we do these behavioral treatments is about 1 month. And then we do a month of a maintenance phase. But there's about 20% of those nights we will be doing some videotaping to actually compare, and we'll have the parent journal, and then we compare the parent's journal to what we see on the videotape. That's part of the study. So we'll have information up on SharePoint on that. You can talk with your supervisor. You can find a way to contact me either through my email or our Sacramento CARD office number. So there's lots of ways for you to express your interest. And
spectacular. Wonderful. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with another question about genetics. So stick with us.
Okay, great.
And then
genetics has a lot to do with autism, but we know it's not just genetics. The environment always plays a role, and we know with the increases in autism spectrum disorder that have happened over the last several decades, we know there's some environmental factors going on, but it turns out environmental factors interact with genetics. So when we're really trying to understand the cause of autism spectrum disorders, we're trying to understand the complex genetics that goes along with complex environmental exposures. Sorry.
We're all beeping here. The studio has gone beepy. It's okay. Is it an alarm saying that you need to leave?
No. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is this? Yeah. Let me turn this off. I did not know that it was still on. I turned it off earlier.
Can we go? And basically people want to know, what do genetics have to do with autism? And I think just as important, or the side cart to that question, is should I get my child genetically tested?
And the answer to both questions is yes, genetics has a lot to do with autism, and yes, we definitely recommend genetics testing, and I'll tell you a lot of reasons why. There's definitely evidence that genetics contributes strongly, very strongly, to all the various and many types of autism spectrum disorders. it's not just genetics alone, it's genetics interacting with the environment. And we know that because of the huge increase in the autism spectrum disorders over the last several decades, we know environmental factors are playing a role. And they're playing a role in part because of how the environmental factors influence our genetics, what we call epigenetics. So understanding the genetics of autism is key to actually understanding causes of autism, including environmental causes. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Medical College of Geneticists, as well as American Pediatric Neurologists, all recommend genetic testing whenever an individual is diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. And there's some certain basic standard genetics tests that are recommended, one being Fragile X. It's a DNA test looking at the X chromosome in a certain region of that that's more fragile due to some repeating chemicals that repeat way more than average. And that can account for anywhere from about 2 to 7% of all individuals who are diagnosed with autism spectrum. It may be because they have this Fragile X syndrome. So that should definitely be done. And then there's a broader genetic testing called the chromosomal microarray that doesn't just look at the X chromosome, but it looks at all our chromosomes. And it turns out for any of us, we don't control what we inherit from our mothers and fathers or what we pass on to our children. And we all have areas of some atypical genes or some areas of our chromosomes where we may have little pieces missing, or sometimes they're bigger pieces missing, or they're duplicated and we have a little too much of it. And either of those can cause problems. So we can see those deletions or duplications in any of us, but it tends to occur more often in children with autism spectrum disorder. And that's a huge clue as to what might be going on. We really understand that autism spectrum disorders are many conditions. They're interrelated. They have a final common pathway with these behaviors that we see with the difficulties with communication and social interaction and the repetitive behaviors. But we really are trying to get to a deeper understanding of the biology of what's going on in each child's metabolism and their biochemistry. And that, of course, relates to our gene expression. Mm-hmm. So that's where the genetics is so critical. And to advance our understanding further, it turns out the genetics of autism is amazingly complex, very, very complex. It's not like one gene, one disorder. It's estimated it may be 400 to 600 different genes, plus epigenetic phenomenon, plus environmental exposures, and that you might lead to various types of autism spectrum disorders. But ultimately it has to come down to our metabolism. And so if we can understand what are the most important genetics involved, then we know what we should be testing metabolically. And so CARD is involved in another study working with a very reputable genetics company, Ambry, where Ambry for free is going to be any CARD client can have this genetic testing if their family wants it for free. And normally, amazing. It is, and normally this is very expensive testing. But basically, we now, through the advancement of science and genetics, have the capability to map the entire human genome. So it's going to be whole genome sequencing on each and every CARD client who wants this. And not only are they going to look at the whole genome, Ambry, through the study, the collaboration with CARD, but they're going to be able to compare it to what that, in an anonymous way, so it protects the confidentiality of the CARD client, no names involved or anything, but compare it to their skills profile of where did they start out and what has their learning trajectory been and what are their behaviors of issue, so that we can relate our genetics findings with very detailed knowledge about their behavior and learning. And Ambry is also going to be looking at several dozen very important specific gene areas known to be to have a great influence on brain development. So we're going to get an enormous amount of very detailed information. So I think this is a novel and tremendously important study that's going to further add to understanding the complexity, but getting much closer to, I think, some real answers. And once we start to understand more the gene metabolism issues going on, we have better chances of really fine-tuning our medical approach, because we know the current biomedical treatments don't necessarily work with all kids with autism, and we don't know why. And to further understanding why, we have to understand the genes to metabolism. I hope that summarizes it.
Well, it's pretty fascinating to me. I mean, we have known, and we talk about skills a lot on the program here, and about the many uses of skills, and that there is a backside of skills where it takes data anonymously, so that there's already been a great deal of information at CARD in the last 5 years that they've been able to take on behavioral interventions and different types of autism based on behavior.
Yes, but the behavioral phenotypes, we call it.
Exactly, which is like mind-blowingly incredible. And we've talked about that a little bit on the show before. But to be able to take that and pair that with the actual genetics is the next leap that autism needs to take.
Absolutely.
And that it is going to take. And so here's the thing, for every parent that's out there watching, and this is for CARD parents, we should be clear about that. CARD parents get an opportunity to participate in this study. Will they
for free?
Will they take other people, or just because you have to have a skills account in order for it to be useful?
For this study, for the CARD's collaboration with Ambry, it's only CARD clients. Now, Ambry is working with other major universities, so that might be an access for other people there.
But for this, if you're a CARD parent, you know, all of us should be doing the genetic testing anyway, and there's a cost associated with that, and sometimes insurance will pick up part of it. But here you have an opportunity to do it for free, and the trade-off is that anonymously your child will be a part of, I think, it will be one of the most enlightening studies to happen in the next decade.
I think it will hugely advance the science. I think it's so tremendous. I can't tell you how excited I am about this.
Honestly, I get goosebumps when I think about it. So how can people find out more information if we've got CARD parents that are watching?
Well, one, talk to your supervisors, and the supervisors in turn can get in touch with our scientific director, Dr. Dennis Dixon, who's coordinating this whole joint venture with Ambry. So that would be one way. And we'll have information up on SharePoint, I'm sure, as well about this.
And I just want to say, too, for those of you who are watching who aren't CARD parents, that it's still recommended that you participate in doing some genetic testing, and that there are many different companies. We've featured some of them here on the show. And if you think that it's not important, let me remind you that sometimes there are things, for instance, Fragile X, there are things that you could do or change right now if you found that your child had Fragile X, that would make a difference across their lifetimes. That they know that with some genetic deletions and differences, that for instance, they might know that, oh, this child is going to be more prone to kidney issues, and that you would protect the child's kidneys in a way that you wouldn't otherwise.
Exactly.
So if you think it's not important, or that the science isn't there, I urge you to rethink it. And even if you've just ruled something out, it will be powerful for you down the road.
Right. And also, even if your child has already had the standard testing with Fragile X and the chromosome microarray, and maybe even a few other genetic studies, the Ambry study is different because it's looking at the whole genome, and then more than a couple dozen very important genes that we know have a lot to do with brain development. So it's really different than the standard clinical genetic testing, and it's all done for free, and it's easy to participate. It really doesn't take a lot on the part of the child or the family. All the child has to do is be able to spit into a tube, and if they can't spit into a tube on request, then just rubbing the insides of their cheeks with a sponge. And then testing is also done on the parents and siblings all for free, all kept confidential. We do have an informed consent that's very detailed that parents can read, so they really know, can answer all of their questions they have about participating. There's no obligation, of course, to participate, but we're making it as easy and simple as possible for this very important scientific development.
It's really exciting, you guys. Really a fabulous thing to do. All right. We thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
And we have to find some time to have you back on a more regular basis.
I'd like that.
We got to have our unicorn, you know what I'm saying? All right. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages. Stick with us.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
Back to Autism Live, and that was Brianna Yeedy. How much do we love her? And thanks to the HuffPost Rise, what an amazing thing. So I hope you enjoyed the unicorn, and if you're just tuning in and you're like, wait, what? She promised me Dr. Grandin, as I said at the start of the show, we know when we have our experts on that sometimes they have to go to be able to help kiddo or kiddos, right? And that was the case this morning. So Dr. Grandin was like, I really want to come in, but I got this, that I got to do. And I was the person who said, no, do that. Go help these kiddos. But in just a few minutes, it's going to be time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And during that hour, we've got a great interview with Dr. Temple Grandin. So you're not going to want to miss that. So, but I wanted to take just a couple of seconds because we did have some questions that came in that I don't want to let go. The first one from a parent who said, hi, I have a question for either Dr. Doreen or Shannon or any of your experts who kindly respond. My son is 2.5 years old. He's diagnosed at 18 months. He's receiving ABA for about a month and a half, but he's been getting cognitive and speech now for almost 6 months. They've been doing a GFCF diet. We have in the news about that coming up. Lots of soup with bone broth, veggies, juices, fruits, fish oil, and probiotics. We've signed up for Jenny McCarthy Foundation, and they are helping us with supplements, just waiting on our Dan doctor appointment. But you know that they don't call them Dan doctors anymore. You and I know what you're talking about, but they call them MAPS now, and they get a little, because they're not allowed to say Dan anymore, so we have to say that. I noticed he's improved, nonverbal yet, but he makes lots of sounds, no real words. My question is, what can I do to improve his visual sensory issues? When he walks, he likes to look up in the air or at the wall, which causes him to fall often. Also, do you recommend preschool for him just before his 3rd birthday next year in May? I already have a package from the school department for his enrollment. I appreciate any input and thank you in advance. And that came to us from Diana. Diana, a couple of things I want to put on your radar. That first of all, we had this summer Ian Jordan on the show, and he's written a book called A Parent's Guide to Vision in Autistic Spectrum Disorders, and I think it's a booklet that you can get that's a pretty fast read, and I think it will enlighten you as to some of the things going on, because I'm learning it's all about perspective, right? The perspective that we take and that other people take, and that our assumption sometimes is that our kiddos are seeing what we're seeing, and that is often incorrect. So this book shows you some actual pictures or representations of what people who are on the autism spectrum have been able to describe to Dr. Jordan. And you can see some videos on YouTube of sometimes we already know, as a former teacher, I knew this 20 years ago, that for some people who are dyslexic, if we put certain filters over words, that it changes their dyslexia. And Dr. Jordan has discovered that it can really help some folks on the autism spectrum to tint their glasses. So I really encourage you to take a look and see the world through his patients' eyes and what he's been able to do for them. It's pretty amazing, and I think it's like a nominal cost for the pamphlet to be able to read that. But again, it's Ian Jordan, Jordan, and the name of the book is A Parent's Guide to Vision in Autistic Spectrum Disorders. And he is, I want to say, in Scotland, and I'm probably getting that wrong, but he's not in the United States. Has a lovely, lovely accent. So definitely check that out. And I will tell you that a lot of studies have been done about what kinds of therapies and what intensity to do for kids between the ages of 3 and 5. We don't have a ton of studies on kids done before the age of 3, and we don't have a ton of studies on kids after the age of 6, 7-ish. And we're really trying to encourage people to pay for those studies, but the studies that we do have really focus on 3 to 5. And I think that it's ideal to take a look, and if you need to look at some of these studies, I'll be happy to send them to you, because sometimes it can be confusing on PubMed and trying to figure out, but write to me and I'll send you studies. But what the studies have shown really clearly thus far is the difference between 3 to 5, kids who just stay home and don't get therapy, kids who get ABA in an intensive way, kids who get ABA in a non-intensive way, and kids who go to preschool, right? And looking at all of those, what they found clearly is that kids who stay home and get no therapy, or kids who get a minimal of ABA therapy, make the same amount of progress as kids who are in preschool, which is not a lot and not enough. That what studies have shown in the past that worked really well, it was intensive ABA therapy. And at the time that those were done, it was intensive ABA therapy in the home, but kids made huge leaps. My kid was one of those kids. But now a new study has shown very clearly that, because everybody was like, oh, but they need the socialization key. Don't they need to be in school? But if they're not being taught the right stuff, and most schools aren't geared towards doing that intensive ABA one-on-one kind of therapy. If you've got that, that's a different subject. Because now there's something called center-based, and the most recent study was shown that kids who are getting intensive ABA at home versus kids who are getting intensive ABA in the center, if it's good quality ABA, guess who does better? Leaps and bounds the kids in the center. So for all of those parents who are like, oh, but I feel like my kid should be a preschool, going center-based, ABA center-based, we know right now is the most effective thing according to all the studies that are there. So not preschool, not in the beginning. Of course, it depends on the kiddo, and it depends on what their learning styles are, and it depends on what their functionality is. But if you're saying that your child is not yet having the ability to express himself verbally, I think we got to give him the best shot there is. And we clearly know that that's center-based. So my question to you is, you've been doing ABA for a month and a half. Do they have center-based at your provider? And can they get him in there intensively? Can you get the prescription for 40 hours? Because that's what's shown to be effective. So I hope that you can do that, and I hope that you'll write back. I'm sure that Dr. Grandin would have so much more to say. We've done videos with her before where she talks about all of the eye things, why kids do toe walking, because they're seeing the world in a better way when they're toe walking, and how much visual plays into things. But you'll have to take my word for now. But definitely check out Ian Jordan's book. Okay. We also had a question from our dear West Virginia mom who has been dealing with hospital issues and doctor issues, and we're so happy to hear that your daughter's heart structure is beautiful and perfect, and we love that. But she writes in to say, thanks for the prayers and well wishes. In our numerous visits, we've encountered many people in the hospitals who aren't educated about autism and what it looks like, and they have said very rude things about both my child's behaviors. How do you handle this? I've learned to keep my mouth shut because usually I don't have very nice things to say. How do you handle people that are supposed to be educated when they make hurtful comments about your children? Thanks for all that you do, and we love you. And I'm sending you big hugs. I want to say this, that there's a time and a place to educate, and I feel like right now with your daughter, you have your plate full. But if you wanted to send me the name of the ombudsman for the hospital or hospitals that you've been at, then I will happily call them and offer them some training to get their people to be more sensitive. But your plate is full right now. Yes, when everything is better and your daughter is better, then we can talk about some things that you can do. But you know, sometimes you just can't take on the responsibility of educating people because you have to deal with what you're dealing with, and I don't want you to get sick. So the one assignment I'll give you is if you'll send me the name of at least the hospital, I will chase down who the person is who's in charge of the bedside manner, and we will offer them some education. And we can't make them take it, right? But let me try. All right, that's my happy Thanksgiving hug to you. Okay, we are going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back. Actually, we're not taking a break. We're going to the A word, and when we come back, it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy's going to be here. We have boys here. Jem and Wyatt are here, and we've got an interview with Dr. Temple Grandin. So stick around. We're going to be right back after the A word.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Jack? Say, I'm playing. Or I'm watching.
I'm watching.
You're watching. Are you watching me? What's this?
No.
What's this? What are these? What are these, Jack?
Eyes.
What is this? Are you looking? Jack, Riley, what's this? What is it?
Nope.
Yeah? So Suzanne, we actually have 3 new programs in his logbook. They are actions, body parts, and categories.
I noticed there's a notebook with pictures of Ellie. Is that part of it?
Oh no, that's actually, it's something really cool. Did you want to see it?
Sure.
It's something that his mom made, I think, before he started talking. So what it is it's just things that are in his environment that his mom cleverly made, which is really cool. It has like different foods that he eats, and I guess she did her own kind of can you point to the dog? What does it say? Kind of like her own kind of discrimination training, I guess, for him. Body parts. It's a really cute little book that she made, and he can label all of them, huh? What are these? What are these? Feet. What are these? Right here.
Toes.
Very good. All right, Jack. So we're going to be doing actions. We're mass Charlie waving in a field of 2 with an unknown, just to see if he can discriminate between the 2. Give me waving. Good job. What is it?
Waving.
Waving. Very good. Good job, Jack Riley.
Jessica points at the correct answer after Jack Riley motions to the incorrect picture to ensure he answers correctly. This is called errorless learning. The reason we do this is that the more opportunities he has to practice the right behavior and be rewarded, the quicker he will learn it and succeed. It's positive reinforcement. Think of it like this. If you were constantly being told what you were doing was wrong and weren't offered help, you'd become frustrated and give up. But if you were assisted, you'd keep trying and eventually succeed independently.
Give me waving. Yay! What is it?
Baby.
Perfect. Very good. You get all your stickers. Then what do you get?
Whoa.
Perfect. Nice job. There you go. So the next one we're going to do is body part. And he is on mouth. So the SD is what is it? And we point to the body part on his own body, and he has to be able to label it. And he's been saying nose with me because I guess it's close proximity, but let's see if you know it today, mister. What is it?
Nose.
Say mouth.
Mouth.
Good. What is it?
Mouth.
Very good. There you go. There's one sticker. Okay. Ready? Look at me.
Walk.
Good job. Okay. What is it? Say mouth.
Mouth.
Good. What is it?
Mouth.
Nice job. Oops. Okay. Ready? One more sticker, okay? Okay. Hey, put your arms down, Rockstar. Thank you. What is it?
Mouth.
Yay! All right. High five. All right. You got your 3 stickers. There you go. What do you want?
Whoa.
Say, I want phone.
Go.
Good job. Here you go. And with the receptive labels that we've been working on with him, he knows so many labels now. What's that? Say bear.
Bear.
What is it? What is it? What's this?
Tackle.
What's this?
Fire.
What is this?
Nipple.
That we move into categories. We're having him give us the picture of the category and having him label it as whatever category pertains to, like the food. Give me food. Where's the food? Good job. What is it?
Food.
Very good. Nice job. Give me food.
Soup. Food.
Okay, give me food. What is it?
Food.
Food. Good job.
Horse.
Okay. Oh, look, Jack Riley, look. Oh, I'm going in the garage. You want to go inside with me? Come on. Let's go inside. You want to go inside? Go inside. Whee! I'm here. Woo! Ready? There he goes. Say, let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
Jessica and Jack Riley are playing together so he can practice how to appropriately play with toys.
Are you all done, cars? Or you want more?
Ada.
All done. Okay. All right. That's okay.
Ada. Walk.
Okay. All done blocks too? Okay. All right. Here, Jack Riley. Let's go for a walk. Sit down. Okay. Ready to go for a walk?
Yes.
Okay. Say, let's go.
Let's go.
Say, let's go, Suzanne.
Let's go, Mr. Chen.
Okay. She will come with us.
Coming.
Say, come on, Mom.
Come on, Mom.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
Last week during clinic, Cheryl and Mike brought up how outings had been difficult with Jack Riley not complying with stop or refusing to walk. Sabrina, their supervisor, suggested that they practice this skill with a therapist at least once a week until the problem behavior becomes better.
You can practice spell off in the rain. Okay, let's go. Stop. Yay! Good job. Stop. Stop. Come back. Yay! Thank you. Let's go. This way. Tap, tap. What do you see? What do you see? Wow, we found a daddy on our walk.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Allspot Jackson.
I'm Shannon Penrod, and happy Thanksgiving to
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving. Happy pre-Thanksgiving.
You're looking very festive.
Red, I don't know. It seems to be, a seasonal color.
I was gonna wear red today, and I don't know.
Thought
I
you
just
might.
couldn't. I had the. Sometimes we
had
have a
that
Vulcan
in
Mind
mind. Yeah, we
Meld
do, we
thing
do.
where we're gonna dress alike, and
Yeah.
I went, I'm not gonna wear red today, but I should have. You look beautiful in red.
Thank you. And you look beautiful as always.
Well,
That
Thank
time
you.
of year where
I'm
we don't
learning how to take
exactly
a compliment.
feel beautiful.
I look old and fat and tired, but
we
other than
feel
that,
very frazzled. Any other autism moms out there feeling very
can I
frazzled?
get an
Raise your hands.
amen?
Hey,
Yeah.
been a heck of a year here.
But this is a week in which we have to stop everything else and find reasons to be thankful for things,
Yes.
right? And that doesn't mean that everything is perfect. It doesn't mean that we're, blowing smoke up anybody's rear end or that we're glossing over anything, but there's always something to be grateful for, right?
Always, yes.
Always. And anybody who thinks that there isn't, I always love to tell about the one day when I was just like, oh man, everything, my child had been diagnosed with autism, my kitchen sink was full of dirty dishes, and I was miserable, and I went to hear Dr. Reverend Beckwith speak, and he said, whatever is kicking your keister is somebody else's dream. And I remember
true.
thinking, and he said,
so
and I thought he was talking to me because he said, like you might be thinking, oh, I got this dish full of, sink full of dishes in this crappy apartment. And I was like, he read my mind, and he goes, but somebody else is thinking, I wish
need an apartment.
I wish I had an apartment, and I wish I had a meal, because those dishes in that sink meant that you ate.
Exactly.
And then you got someplace to be with a roof over your head.
Exactly.
And so it's all relative. Doesn't mean it's perfect.
No, by no means. And, comparison is the source of all suffering.
There we go. So today we're remembering what to be great, that we all have something to be grateful
Yeah,
for.
somebody said
I'm
that. I don't know
grateful-
who, but it is
Probably
like,
you, but I'm grateful for my friend
I
Nancy
am
Allspot
grateful for
Jackson.
you. You
I'm
have
grateful
no
for
idea.
our boys who are in my office right now putting together Nerf guns for a fundraiser
Yeah.
that we're doing here on the floor in about an hour. And I'm grateful for that, because we get
I
to
am
be here
too.
together,
I am
and
too.
and that's a wonderful
and think
thing.
of all the people that would love to be able to bring their kids to work with them even.
Hello, what a fabulous thing. And there
Right.
was a time when you and I prayed to be moms. We
That's
were
right.
both late to this party.
Very late.
And we wanted this so bad. And when I
Mm-hmm.
think about, 20 years ago, when I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get to have a kid, and how different my life is, all upside down, sideways, and twisted. And there have been some things that I did not sign up deliberately for. I'm going to say I would sign up for it again in a heartbeat, because our boys are fabulous. And I'm grateful for that.
I am too.
Grateful for that. Okay, now, if you didn't hear, we have an interview with Temple Grandin coming up in just a few minutes that nobody else has seen. Brand new. It is recorded, so before everybody gets all in a twist, you can write in questions, and we'll share them with her. She loves it when you write in questions. But we recorded this day before yesterday, so it's brand spanking new, and she talks about some really fun things. So really excited to show you that in just a minute. But before that, and we're going to show some D&D footage as well that you
Okay.
guys have been asking for, when we got to Hobnob, and Nancy looked like a star. You are a star. You don't just
Thank
look like a
you.
star, you are a
Well,
star.
it took a team of thousands to put that look together.
Well,
It took a village.
and I gotta say, I don't look bad for,
You look
but,
great.
But wait till you see the top that I think we have a shot of me. If not, it's a top that I bought for $3 in a garage sale. And
Which
I'm
is so
proudest
cool.
of that. That's
Yeah.
I'm
Well, my
proudest of that.
dress was lent to me. I want people
And
to
was-
know I don't go out and buy gowns that cost that. Okay, look,
But
Samantha,
there we
thank
are.
you.
So there's my $3 garage
And
sale
and look
top.
how great we match.
We had the same Vulcan Mind Meld color palette
Yeah.
thing. Did not talk
Yeah.
about it beforehand.
And
But-
that dress by a woman in Beverly Hills, Andrea's Fashions, I guess she does incredible. I
Oh.
know she does incredible bridal gowns and things.
And you were like a Barbie.
She-
that anybody can dress you up, but man,
But
she
this
dressed
woman
you well.
found this dress for me that she had in her store. There I am with Corey Feldman.
Look at you.
And she fit this to my body. I went for like 3 fittings, I want you to know.
That is a dream dress, right?
It was unbelievable. If I felt like I was getting, I mean, it looks like Corey and I are getting married. Corey is getting married, by the way.
Is he?
This week,
How
Corey
very
Feldman. We're kind of digressing a bit, so are you
I love
okay
how
with that?
his shoes light up
Okay,
too. Yeah, it's
Corey
okay.
Feldman, who many of you know, seems to always be in the news, and
Yeah.
he was at Denim and Diamonds, and he introduced me, and he is, a former child star, and lately has been getting a lot of attention for various things, including an appearance on the Today Show. He is marrying his girlfriend, Courtney, this week.
And she's a sweetheart. We really
Yeah,
love
so
her.
our best to them.
And she has a big heart for kids who are on the autism spectrum.
Yes, as does
and wants to
Corey.
make sure that they eat right.
Eat right,
which
and
leads
Corey wants
right
to make
into
sure
our
they're
first
not
story.
bullied. Okay, let's talk about the diet.
Yes. So here we are, the day before Thanksgiving, when people are about to down a bunch of gluten.
Yeah.
And so if you already have your meal planned, just know that you might want to look at something a couple of days afterwards. But we've talked about this endlessly on the show, that there's been a lot of controversy about the gluten-free diet, and a lot of studies
And
saying,
dairy-free.
and dairy-free.
GFCF.
But a lot of people saying, it doesn't have an effect. Because a lot of studies have been done where there were a significant portion of the kids that it didn't have a big effect for, because our kids are not all the same.
No.
If you put the two of us on the same diet and said, was this effective at doing anything, I'm sure we would find different results, because our systems are very different.
Yeah.
But there's a pretty big new study that's out that showed a pretty significant difference for a pretty significant portion of kids.
Right.
It's available on PubMed right now, but they had significantly less gastrointestinal distress, significantly, and they saw that their behaviors, their autistic-like behaviors, lessened as well. Now, if you're like, how could that be? I want you to stop and consider the last time that your stomach, you had a rumbly in the tumbly, and there was something knocking at the back door. You know what I'm saying, right? How well are you able to learn physics when that's happening? Because I cannot. How well are you able to concentrate? You can't. So don't start saying, one has nothing to do with the other. If your tummy isn't okay, you aren't going to be able to acquire new skills. That is just common sense, right? And this study shows that it can make a difference for a significant portion of our kids. We've always said not all, right? And this corroborates not every single kid, but a significant portion. I really think it's time for anybody who hasn't tried gluten-free to at least give it a college try, which means at least 6 months of really pristine. And then, you can add things back in or not. We found with Jem not adding, but is what's better. But
Wyatt's been gluten-free, dairy-free, and sometimes I let the gluten slide a little bit, but never the dairy.
But it's years later, and a
Yeah,
lot of
years
people
later.
can do that, and
Right.
you're not seeing a difference when you do that.
Not so much, but we still pretty much stick to it. I would say 99% of the time.
Okay.
But there is the expense factor for a lot of families.
Yes, there is.
And the practicality.
Yes.
If there's many children in the family. I've had many moms
Absolutely.
say to me, it's just not practical for me.
Okay, but I would say to you, based on this study, if it's your kid's gastro, if they're having stomach issues, relook at it again. There's a place on TACA's website where they show you how to do, for a family of 4, to do a gluten-free diet, I think on $80 a week, which I know is still
Really?
expensive, but it's in the realm
But
of what
$80
a week. And also, we had somebody in the last hour who'd written in and said that she's getting help and support from the Jenny McCarthy Foundation for gluten-free diet, and there are other ways to do that as well.
Right, and
It's
Act Today
doable.
has given
There you
grants
go.
for that.
So there you have it. So
Okay.
look, if it's your kid's stomach and they're in pain, you got to at least look at it.
Yeah.
And I think it's easier to just do it with a whole family. Yes,
Right,
it's more
right.
expensive, but there's less difficulty.
Right. And if it's your stomach and you're in pain, because celiac disease affects a lot of people.
Yeah, we got to.
Okay, let's
Samantha's
go.
like, speed it up because
Okay,
we're gonna
sorry,
time.
I'm
All
so
right.
talky today.
And this is a horrible story to end on. But did you see the videotape
I
of the
did.
boy in
I
Nutter
did.
Fort, West Virginia?
Yes.
I am incensed. I'm sure that you guys have all seen this. The little boy that the teacher ripped the microphone off the stand. I have been calling the superintendent of the schools and not been able to get through. And I want everybody to know that I called and said, can we please give you some help? Because there's something wrong at your school. That the teacher did that people laughed when she did it, and that you are supporting her and saying that she will not. I don't even want to talk about reprimands. She needs to have a break and go out, because she is not okay to be teaching our kids.
I know this story. It almost brings me to tears to even talk about it.
You go cry, I go angry. I am.
Why
ticked.
would she do that? The mom said, as she said in the video, after a teacher in West Virginia literally snatches the microphone before a 6-year-old boy with autism was about to deliver his closing line at the school Thanksgiving play. Everybody's asking the same question. If you look at the video, there's no justification. And Caleb, the little boy, exclaims, "Oh no," as he sees his moment in the spotlight snatched, left in his turkey costume, breaking into tears.
And the school has said all these excuses about the parents didn't sign the permission slip. I am sorry. I've watched the whole tape now. Excuse me, not just that portion. And they let him say things earlier in the show. But look, I have worked with kids at this age range and produced a play and directed a play with them.
Right.
And sometimes, there's stuff that happens, and if you don't get the right support, you can get to a point as a teacher where you are not in the space to be in the best mindset of educating young minds.
Right.
And you know who is in charge of that? Are people, superintendents and principals. I don't lay this all at the teacher's foot. The fact that though everybody there laughed means you have a problem at this school that needs to be taken care of. And the first thing is that teacher needs to go on a leave, and then before she goes back in the classroom, she needs support. Something happened before that this teacher did not think that she had anything else that she could do but be vindictive with a child. Excuse me.
Wrong.
Don't tell me that there's nothing wrong and that it's just that teacher. There's a problem at this school. And I have reached out and said, I will gladly get you help and support. I have said that. They haven't returned my phone call.
Thank you, Shannon.
Don't get me going. Okay, but we have Dr. Temple Grandin.
We do.
So that's a fabulous thing. But so we're gonna cut right to that. As I said, it's pre-recorded, but it's only 2 days old. Nobody else has seen it. World premiere right here. And then stick with us because then we're gonna talk some more after that. Here we go, Temple Grandin. We got a lot of families that are out there that love to hear from you on so many different topics. And for them, especially with the little ones on the spectrum, the holidays tend to be really stressful. And so that's why I started talking about the holidays.
One of the things we did at my grandmother's was we had a room, another bedroom or they had some special toys that me and my sister could go play with. I used to love to go in the study and ask my grandfather science questions because I think he was kind of shy and he'd rather talk science questions. So it'd be me and grandfather in the study doing science questions and everybody else out in the living room.
Interesting.
And my grandfather, you might be interested to know, is the co-inventor of the autopilot for airplanes.
I love that. So who better to talk about science with than him?
Well, that's right.
I love that. Well, now we know that maybe there might be a genetic component to how great you are at designing things and inventing things.
Well, I think brains can either be more thinking or brains can be more social emotional. Now, there's a wide range. It's just part of normal personality variation. And my grandfather was definitely more thinking. And then we went to my aunt's house for Christmas and Thanksgiving. She had this big, long hallway in it. And after lunch, I was allowed to run down the hallway and watch myself get big in the mirror at the end of the hallway. And that kind of ran off some steam. And then at my grandmother's apartment, I was allowed to beat the elevator on the fire stairs, for 5 floors. I was allowed to do it coming in, allowed to do it coming out, and then that was it.
I love that. I love the fact, one of the things we talk about parents with a lot is the fact that you had things that you like to do. Some people might call them perseverations, like spinning the metal thing on your bed, and that your mother didn't take it completely away from you. She put boundaries on it.
What was done with me was stimming. It was not allowed at meals. It was not allowed at church and places like that, but I was allowed to have an hour after lunch where I could spin the metal thing on the bed.
But the biggest question that people ask about that, Temple, is like, how did they make it clear to you? Was there a consequence for if you did it when you weren't allowed to? How to make it clear?
She just told me to stop doing it. The other thing is we need to start using teachable moments. There's a tendency every time a child does something wrong to scream, "No!" Okay, so if I stuck my finger in my drink, Mother would say, "Use the spoon to stir it." She would give me the instruction instead of screaming no.
Okay.
And that is something when you really need to start doing that. And it was all done really calmly, unless I ran to the street or something. But things like put my finger in the potatoes, she'd say, "Use your fork."
Wonderful.
I like to call that a teachable moment. That was a standard 1950s way of bringing kids up. We need to be doing a lot more of that, where we give the instruction instead of saying no.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I'd rather talk about things like teaching kids basic skills.
Then let's
I
do
am
that.
seeing too many smart, fully verbal kids that don't know how to do basic skills such as shopping. You know, they're getting too overprotected by the parents. And, you know, I've talked to a 13-year-old recently within the last year who had never gone into a store and bought something and paid for it himself.
Well, I don't know if you recall that when I last saw you, we were in a restaurant with my son, and he was lamenting to you about the fact that I'd not let him use the restroom by himself, and you took care of that right on the spot.
That's right. Yep.
Sent him to the men's room and made me stay there. You practically had to tie me to a chair, but we did that, and he would be happy to let you know that's been the case ever since then. And anytime I try to do something too overprotective, he says, you know, Dr. Grandin wouldn't want you to do that.
Well, that's right. And I was reading an article yesterday on the plane about autistic students that were going to college, and that some of these kids, before they'd gotten to college, did not know how to shop, and they were going on shopping expeditions in the van to Walmart. Well, that's the kind of a basic skill a kid should learn way before they graduate from high school. They ought to be learning things like shopping. I'm seeing too much of this because I worked with a lot of kind of quirky, nerdy kind of people, and you know, working on building corral systems.
Yeah.
And I know they were on the spectrum. I worked with all kinds of people in the construction industry that I know were on the spectrum.
Yes.
And why did they manage? How did they manage to live independently and have jobs? Because in the 50s, social rules and behavior was just pounded in. You were taught manners. You were taught to say please and thank you. I got an allowance when I was 7 years old, and I knew exactly what I could buy with it. I could get 5 comics. The kids aren't learning basic stuff like money.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's important to distinguish that, you know, it seems like to me from talking to you and to your mom that your mom never ever did anything. In fact, she did more sometimes, but she never ever said, well, I'm not going to do that because Temple is different.
She knew just how much to push. You know, some of this was 50s upbringing. She was always getting me to do new things. Like when I was in college, she helped set up 2 internships that I did. This is before internships really existed. I did an internship at a research lab. I did another internship at a summer program for, you know, kids with autism. You've got to get these kids out. One of the biggest problems I'm seeing are recluses in the house. You've got to get their butt out of the house, doing new things, and give them choices. And say, well, you could do Boy Scouts or you could do robotics. But you're going to get out of the house and do something. We'll give you some choices.
Absolutely.
The other worst thing I think the schools have done is taken out the hands-on things.
I know.
There's a huge shortage right now of skilled trades, for example, a huge shortage of diesel mechanics.
It's hard. You know, we've had many conversations, you and I, about the fact that my son needs that kind of stuff, as do so many of our kiddos, because Jem is now 13, and I've gone looking for a way to get him a welding class, but they don't. It's really hard, Temple, because there aren't as many welders as there used to be, and the ones that there are.
Well, yeah, this is the problem. We're not going to have people that know how to do stuff. And when I was working on big meatpacking plants, like big Cargill plants, when they were putting them up, I worked with millwright people. These were brilliant people. These are complicated, big, complicated projects, a lot more complicated than building shopping centers.
Right.
And people don't have enough respect for some of this stuff. I worked with guys that were dyslexic. I worked with guys that I know now would be diagnosed on the spectrum. A lot of them, you know, some guys that were ADHD. And they were absolutely brilliant in what they did in terms of inventing things and building things.
And Temple, I guess, you know, I mean, we've touched on this a little bit before, but was there a lot of discrimination against you because you were a woman, and how did you handle that?
Oh, being a woman in the 70s was terrible. In fact, I'm at a veterinary conference right now up at the University of Minnesota, talked to a veterinarian named Carla, and she was working in Oklahoma and Texas in the early 70s at a feed yard, and she was telling me some of her stories. Of course, a veterinarian has to post dead animals. So they'd hide dead animals and let them rot, and then they'd give them to her to post. You know, like really, really disgusting. And being a woman was that was not easy in the 70s, and we were sharing stories about that last night. But you know what happened? She proved she really was a good person and really good. And when she left that feed yard, they gave her cake and really nice presents. And, you know, she sort of became one of the guys. And that similar sorts of things happened with me. I had bad things happen to me, and it was mostly cowboy foremen that did it. I actually got along with the regular guys usually fine.
How did you have the mental fortitude to get through it? Do you have any tips for our young women that are encountering?
Yeah, you just got to do it.
Okay.
You know, and I really did have bull testicles put on my car. That was shown in the movie. That actually happened. You just got to push ahead. The other thing is I had to be twice as good as a man.
And you were.
I have seen it. Yeah, I saw stuff in construction where a guy would completely mess up the refrigeration system of a meat packing plant and millions of dollars worth of damage. And somehow he'd still manage to get a job afterwards.
Wow. But you had the skills to be able to do that. Unfortunately, I don't think everybody has the talent that you do.
The way I sold the jobs was showing off my portfolio, and I'd whip out a big copy of my drawings, and people would go, "You designed that?"
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's still amazing.
You sell your portfolio.
Yes.
And I've had parents come up to me and say, "Oh, my kid's really good at art, really good at this." I said, "Have you got a sample of his work on your phone?" "No." I said, "You get it on your phone."
Yeah.
Because go sell some jobs for your kid. That's how I sold jobs. It was strictly showing off the portfolio, selling work, not myself. I would just go into an interview and spread the drawings out on the desk.
And that
the movie actually showed that.
And your drawings are amazing.
In the movie, that drawing that was on the desk was actually a real one of my drawings.
Wow. Well, I know people that display your work as art because it's gorgeous, Temple. It's absolutely brilliant. And which brings me to my next question. Since we're moving into the holiday season, and here at Autism Live, we always think that this is an opportunity to give toys that will ignite the imagination of children that are on the spectrum. We do a festival of toys, and I'm wondering if you would talk a little bit about what your favorite toy was as a child and anything that you've seen that's out there right now.
I loved things that flew. If it flew, I loved it.
Okay.
Rockets that shot off with water, kites, airplanes of all different kinds. It flew, I loved it.
Okay.
I just loved watching the motion of them. You know, now another child is not going to be interested in that. You see, it's going to vary. It's going to vary some. Yeah. If the child has got an artistic interest, well, give them art supplies and things that they can create with. Another child that might be get them into robotics things and some Lego things. I think a lot of kids need to be just given some old scrap lumber and some hand tools and let them build stuff.
Absolutely. We need to get back to basics. I agree.
Just basics, you know. How about some old forklift pallets? I can take them apart and build stuff out of them.
Oh, too much fun. So
hand saw, hand hammer, you know, hand tools, hand drill.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it has to be supervised to make sure that they know how to use them safely. And I think that's hard for some people.
Well, we can show them how to use them safely.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I was a child, we were doing this stuff unsupervised. But we never had a bad accident with a tool.
Yes.
You know, we knew that the hammers for hitting the wood with, not something else.
Exactly.
Or hitting the nail with it.
Absolutely. And I know you got to go in a second, but I just wanted to touch on briefly. We think that we're going to be seeing you right after the first of the year, and I don't know. I don't think we can announce anything yet about where, but we're hoping that we're going to see you at some place really remarkable right after the first of the year, and we're really excited about that.
I'm really looking forward to that. Well, people get too hung up on the labels. We got to start looking at what a kid can do.
Absolutely.
What can the child do?
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm seeing, you see, as I go back and forth between the cattle world, the veterinary world, the construction world, I'm seeing people, you know, colleagues that I know are on the autism spectrum, successful colleagues.
But do you think, Temple, that part of the issue is in a can-do mindset as a parent?
Oh, yes. I am finding that construction, see, I've spent 20 years in the construction industry where I'd sell the job by showing off the drawings, supervise his construction. Well, then I'd have to draw it up. Then I'd supervise his construction. Then we had to start it up. You've got to finish jobs and make them work.
But you have said before, you and I've had conversations before about how overwhelmed autism parents are, and that sometimes it's like a sinking ship.
The problem is the spectrum's gotten so big.
Yes.
There's a big difference between a smart Asperger kid that maybe ought to go to Silicon Valley and a child that can't dress themselves.
Yeah.
And you've kind of got there's kind of two subgroups. You've got the kids that get diagnosed early.
Mm-hmm.
I looked like a real mess when I was 3. And then you work on them really hard with early intervention, and some of them you kind of pull them out of it. Others never are able to learn basic skills. Yes, it would be devastating to have a child that was toilet trained when he's, a teenager. But then you've got the kid that should be that quirky millwright who can build anything. And he's ending up, they're not all the same.
Right. But I think that in the beginning, for the autism parents, they don't know which one their child is going to be, and that in and of itself is so overwhelming.
Yes, for little kids, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Little kids, and I'm talking 2 and 3-year-olds,
yeah.
You don't know. You don't know how they're going to come out. You just...
But don't you...
There's no diagnosis in a very young child at age 3. But then they get diagnosed around 8, 9, or 10 because they have no friends.
Right.
And those kids also are much more likely to get a diagnosis mixed up with ADHD. In fact, there's just been some new research out on that.
Yeah. And you've always talked about how important it is for parents to get those kids involved in the things that they're interested in, and you've been a proponent of getting...
Get them involved with shared interest. Model rockets. We had a brief period where giant stilts were the rage. They're made out of 2x4s. And the one kid who was the worst bullier stopped bullying me when we were doing giant stilts.
Ah.
And then as soon as we got back to the cafeteria, it was being bullied again.
I hate hearing those stories, and I'm so sorry that happened.
But we've got to get them involved with shared interest.
Well,
so get them into that Lego club, get them into choir, get them into theater.
Wonderful.
Get them into different things where there's a shared interest.
I think that's a great thing to do. Temple, we so appreciate you taking the time with us to be with us today. We wish you the happiest of Thanksgivings and the happiest holiday season, and we're looking forward to seeing you right after the first of the year.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, and I always like to talk to people, too, about the different kinds of minds. Some kids are visual thinkers, some are word thinkers, some are pattern thinkers. And I talk about that in detail in my book, The Autistic Brain.
Absolutely. Are you thinking of another book? Is there another book coming along?
I'm working on one for activities for kids to do. We've got to get kids out doing stuff, making stuff, doing things.
I love that.
Drag them off the electronics. That's one. I've been reading a lot of stuff on that. And basically what the research is showing right now is the old 50s way of dealing with TV is an hour a day on the weekdays, 2 hours a day on the weekends, and get out and get them out doing things.
Yeah.
Electronics-free meals.
Yes. But what about when they're using...
Together.
I'm sorry, Temple. What about when they're using the technology for that, designing or animating?
If they're using it for designing, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, but not the games.
For work.
Yes. Okay.
It's
All right.
for work, yeah.
I love that.
But I'm seeing too many kids where I'm hearing the mom saying, he's 18, I can't get him out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
Well, somebody should have introduced that kid to programming when he was 8.
Right.
Because Silicon Valley's hiring right now.
Exactly. Oh, I'm right there with you, Temple. We adore you so much, and our viewers adore you. You are a shining light for us all, and we're all following behind you, Temple. And
I just want to see kids get out and be everything that they can be, you're pushing your son to do things.
Yes, I am, and with your help, we're gonna.
Aren't you glad what I did that day in that barbecue restaurant?
I am.
I just told your son the rules for the men's room. That guys don't talk. Go in there, do it, mind your own business. And then halfway through, at the end of the meal, I just casually said, "Now it's time to use the boys' room."
Yep, and he did.
And he did it.
And he was so grateful, Temple, because he had been telling me that for a year and a half, and I was still being cautious, and you said to me, we're not going to do that anymore. That's not helping
No,
him.
we're not.
And I needed to hear that. And I think a lot of times as parents, we get afraid and we get stuck because we want our kids to progress, but we're also afraid of the rest of the world. And you got me unstuck in that moment, and I'll be forever grateful
Well, I had to
for
get
that.
you unstuck, and I've had other parents where I had to,
Yeah.
get them unstuck where, 13-year-old fully verbal had never gone shopping. And then I'm reading this thing in the paper yesterday about a college that has autistic kids in it, and they're taking them on shopping expeditions to
Yeah.
Walmart to learn shopping in college.
Yeah.
Now, I want to commend the college for doing that.
Yes.
But I think somebody's really falling down here. The kid is getting all the way to college age. He's never shopped at Walmart or any other store.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I do think I love the idea of your book though, because a lot of times parents don't know, well, at what day are they ready to do that? I always say my son didn't come with an instruction manual, because if he did, I would have read it cover to cover. But he didn't, and so my son is 13, and we've been working up towards it, but where he's had different responsibilities, but now we're starting to have him do laundry from beginning to end, because I don't want him to be 18 and not know how to do.
13 should be doing laundry, absolutely.
But nobody
13, start
tells
learning
you.
Grocery, you can start teaching them something about budgeting.
Yes, he's done a little bit about that, but nobody gives you the instruction manual on that, Temple. And so I love the idea that your book is going to be activities.
I'm using the 1950s instruction manual.
All right. I would
we
like a
need to get
copy
back
of
to
that. I want a copy
See,
of
the
it.
problem is when a kid's missing a few social circuits, he's got to have the kid has to have more instruction. I think it's really interesting that Google makes sure they actually do the laundry for the Googlers.
That there's instructions for.
They provide a lot of services, but a lot of these kids need to be just learning these basic stuff. When I was
Yes.
at my boarding school, we went on expeditions of shopping and laundry.
Interesting.
I learned those things.
So you learned that at boarding school. How old were you the first time you went shopping by yourself?
Oh, I was 7.
Right, because you were buying the comics.
Well, I was actually there was a little candy store post office in the summertime, and I'd go in there, buy a popsicle, buy a Coke. I was doing that by myself. And then when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I was riding my bike down to Woolworths to buy little airplanes, go to the newsstand, buy a comic.
Yeah.
I was doing that by myself.
So Temple, are you like in what they talk about in neurotribes? Do you think that there were as many people with autism back then in the 50s, but we weren't noticing it because they had all those skills?
I agree. I can think of kid after kid after kid I went to school that I know would be put on the spectrum today. But you see, in the 50s, kids were formally taught manners. I agree with neurotribes on that. These fully verbal kids, especially the ones that get diagnosed later on.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not the little kid is okay.
Yeah.
And then when he's 8 or 9, they get diagnosed. Those kids, they've always been around.
Okay. Interesting.
Always been around. You see, and the thing is, you don't know the breakout on what percentage of autistic kids are going to be diagnosed really early. In other words,
Yeah.
you got speech delay, you got obvious problems in 2 and 3-year-old.
Right.
And then the kids where there's no obvious problem in the little kid, but then when he's, halfway through elementary school, you start to see he's got social problems. And I think the ones that get diagnosed a little bit later, I think they've always been here.
Yeah. And you didn't, you had language, you never had any language delay, correct?
Oh, I had serious language delay. Oh, serious. Oh, yeah, I didn't talk until I was 4.
Okay.
I had serious
But
language delay. In fact, when I was a little kid, I looked really severe. And mother, fortunately, got very good advice, took me into a neurologist. They tested me for epilepsy, and they tested me for deafness. And that's all they could do back in 1949. And I was... then I got really good early intervention,
But
about 2 years I was talking.
Once you started speaking, though, you started speaking very quickly and spoke in full sentences fairly quickly, though, right?
Well, it came in slowly.
Really?
They got me into early intervention at 2 and a half.
Wow.
They did a lot of ABA type of things when I was real little, and it came in slowly. And by the time I was 5, I could talk pretty fluent and fast. And then when I was 4, I had a hard time getting my words out.
I see. And what do you, because you certainly don't have, it doesn't seem as though you have any trouble getting your words out now. What do you think was
Well, this is why it's so important to do the early intervention.
Yeah.
Because what was found out looking at the experimental brain scans that were done on me, which are fully described in the Autistic Brain book.
Yes. There's some gorgeous photos too.
I'd lost about 2/3 of the bandwidth on the circuit for speak what you see, but there was still a third of the circuits were still there, and there's some new research now that shows that those circuits can increase the bandwidth if you work on it. That's why therapy works.
Yes. Yes.
Now, if there's no circuits, you're not going to change that, but I still had about a third of them. This is why it's so important to do early intervention. You got little kids, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds that are not talking. I don't care what the diagnosis is. You start working with them now, because nothing is the worst thing you can do.
I love that, Temple.
You start working with that kid right now.
What a great, great message to give our viewers.
And a couple of other little hints.
Yeah.
These kids are like a slow computer. When you talk to them, slow down and enunciate your words. Slow down. The other thing you've got to do is give the child time to respond. They're like a slow computer. You've got to talk slow, like to make Siri understand you.
Yes.
You can actually use Siri to teach you to talk slowly enough so a child with an auditory processing problem can understand.
I really want to introduce you, Temple. There's a young man in England who is on the autism spectrum. His name is Tom Bowes, and
yes.
have heard about him yet? He calls himself the Autistic Genius, and he does short videos that are for parents and practitioners that talk about different things. And he has one video in particular about how frustrating it is when you ask a question and what happens in his brain if you ask a question and he tells you to count to 8 before you ask the question again, and he talks about how when you tap on your computer and your computer doesn't respond and you keep tapping,
that's right,
that you overload the computer. And I would love to connect you with Tom.
He's absolutely right, and I've used that same analogy. They're like a slow computer.
Yeah.
If you keep pushing the buttons, they're going to freeze.
And that it overwhelms it. That then it's having
That's
to
right.
go through every request that you gave instead of refresh.
Well, you've also got to just, when I was 5, I had I could talk when I was 5, but I was slow to respond. And we had a little assignment where you had to mark down all the pictures that began with B as in beautiful. So I marked a picture of a suitcase down with B for bag. And I was so frustrated because they didn't give me time to explain that in our house they were bags. I mean, after all, it's the baggage car on the train.
Yes.
Back then, when I was a little kid, it was baggage. Didn't have planes when I was a real little kid.
Amazing.
It was so frustrating.
Yeah.
I couldn't explain. We call suitcases bags.
Yes. Well,
and the teacher just marked it wrong and said, "You're wrong."
Yes, that's so frustrating.
It was totally frustrating.
To be so expansive in a world that is so literal sometimes.
Absolutely,
is
totally frustrating.
Yes. Well, what a great message for all of our folks at home. I know you got to get back to your conference, but again, we so appreciate you, Temple. Are so looking forward to seeing you.
Okay, good to talk to you, and I'm really glad that I helped you on kind of helping you to let go and get your son going out and doing new things.
Temple, you have inspired me and helped me in so many ways for so long, and I know I speak for so many parents when we say how much we appreciate the work that you do and how you let us in. Because sometimes our kids aren't at the point where they can tell us what's going on, and you let us in.
They just can't.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you let us know, and we all learn from that. And you're such a treasure, such a treasure.
Okay, well, thank you. Really, really good to talk to you.
You too. Have a happy holiday.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, great. Yeah, bye.
And so that was Temple Grandin. We lost her a little bit from time to time, but only briefly. So stick with us. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more Autism Live and Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy after these messages. Welcome back. We're back. I was just saying I look fat. It's the mood I'm in today. It's okay. We're celebrating. I'm grateful. You have no idea what Nancy and I have been doing for the last half hour, chasing boys with Nerf guns and trying like wrestling bears.
Yeah.
It's been
woo!
Yeah. Yes, you're getting the lunch going. We have a fundraiser starting in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But wasn't that fun? getting, and I'm sending a message to Tom Bose to say, hey, you need to watch Autism Live today. He got engaged yesterday.
Who?
He's the autistic genius, and I mentioned him to Dr. Temple Grandin, and we were talking about him just a few minutes ago on the thing.
I don't know about him.
Oh, you would love him.
Why is he the autistic genius?
Well, he's a young man on the spectrum. See, Tom, how much coverage I'm giving you today. He's a young man on the spectrum. You can find him on YouTube. He does a bunch of short videos that are on a bunch of different topics. Wonderful, works with kids, but he's on the spectrum himself, and he puts it in a way that parents can understand.
Okay.
And they're cute, fun, really good content, short videos in England. And he got engaged yesterday. How's that for every single mom of a boy who's on the autism spectrum?
That's fantastic.
We're very happy for him. So, woohoo, happy engagement. And definitely, you need to watch the show now today, Tom. In any case, we're running out of time, and that's why I'm a little manic here, because we want to show, we didn't get to it yesterday, a video that Samantha put together of a little taste of what happened at Denim and Diamonds a month ago.
Yeah, Samantha did a great job with this video,
Yeah,
and
she did.
I wanted everybody to see it, because it's like, it's a night that is kind of like being at the Oscars of autism.
It is, it is. So everybody take a look, and we're going to be back at the end of the show. Take a look and see. Hi, it's Shannon Penrod from Autism Live, and we are live on the red carpet here at Denim and Diamonds. It's the 11th annual Denim and Diamonds. We're going to be catching a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. Of course, we're going to do video for you later on, but this is the raw, uncut, real, in-moment stuff right here. Lots of stars are going to be coming down here. Dignitaries, people who have donated money and time for this wonderful, wonderful cause. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So, fasten your seatbelts. Why did you turn out for this event?
Well, one of my great friends, a woman who I call my sister, she's actually on the red carpet right now, Kimberly Aber-Gregory.
Love her.
I love her with all my heart. She just got finished playing my sister in the play at the Geffen. And so, we've been talking, I know her son, so we've been talking. I was like, I want to do something to bring a little awareness to autism. And she was like, you know what, I know a perfect event that you can come to, and this, that, and the other. So I ended up, okay, I'm at the event, but now I'm presenting an award. I didn't know how that happened.
Which award are you presenting?
I'm presenting to Brian McKnight. Yeah, so that's awesome. I was like, okay, well, I'm here for that. Yeah.
We love Brian.
Yes.
Brian has been at this event many times, and so what a great thing.
Yes.
But we're thrilled that you're here.
Yes.
Okay, so, Omar, I gotta say this is inappropriate, right? But I am the biggest Oprah fan, and that's saying a lot.
Okay.
But so you're on the OWN network.
Yes.
Have you met Oprah?
Yeah. I've met Oprah a few times. I did a movie with her called Selma, and so we were together.
If I touched you,
Yes.
then
You touched the hand.
6 degrees of separation.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
You're at 1 degree because I've hung around Oprah a few times. Yes.
You have to tell her. My son, one of the first sentences he said. My son is on the spectrum. One of the first sentences he said was, Oprah is mommy's fairy godmother.
She's mine.
I hear you. She's a lot of people.
Yes, she is. Yeah. Right.
And so you're doing Queen Sugar.
Yes.
And how much fun is that?
It's amazing. It's something about, we had female directors for every episode, and this is the first time I worked with that many female directors, and I became a better actor because I was like, my sensitivity levels were through the roof, and I never had to have really heavy scenes like that, and those women just brought me through it. And I appreciate it. It's one of the best shows on TV, even if I wasn't on it.
And so tell people what day and time can we catch?
It's on Wednesday nights, 10 o'clock on the OWN network.
Okay.
Yes.
Omar, we love you. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're representing. And now that I know that you're friends with Kimberly, and now we always.
And I'm friends with you too.
Well, okay.
I'm friends with Oprah.
All right.
So now we're all friends
All right.
together.
So now you tell Oprah how much the autism moms love her.
I will tell her for sure.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that.
I will. I'll tell
All
her.
right. And they all. It's on Facebook Live. People saw it.
I want to tell her. I'll tell her. I'll see her in 3 weeks. I'll tell her.
All right. You tell her.
Okay, for sure.
That makes me want to cry. That's like silly, right?
Yeah,
That makes me want to cry. The first time you met her, did you have yourself together, or did you?
I met her on set when we were doing Selma, and I was just like, that's Oprah. What's going on? I knew she was in the movie, but then she's so nice and she's so open. Then it's just That's Oprah. She's hanging out. She's like, you know.
Yeah, I want to meet her, but I have a feeling I'd go stupid. Like I'd go to the ugly cry, as she said, and I'd go completely stupid, and I wouldn't know what to say, and I just love her.
Nah, she's awesome. She is. She's the best.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah.
She really is.
Yeah.
But you're the best.
Thank you.
You're the best.
And you are too. I'm very proud of all the work that you ladies are doing. You know, you're doing it. You're doing it.
As Kimberly said when we were talking to her, this is not easy, but it's fabulous.
It is. Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she met you and brought you here.
Exactly. I'm glad she did.
Way too cool. Now you have to come every year.
I will come every year. That's a promise.
We'll come and find you.
I want to bring Oprah next year.
Woo! That's a hot flash. Woo! Okay. All right, you're my new best friend.
All right, cool.
You
sure?
Yes, I'm
You
sure.
heard that Facebook. She said I was going to be best
You
friend.
gotta meet this fabulous. Why is this cause important to you?
Why is it important? Well, it's important because the people are important. You know, the children that grow up autistic are very misunderstood. And they, unfortunately, live in a reality. You're kind of pulling on the mic there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Trying to get out of your light.
Oh, no, it's fine. Anyway, the children that are, born into autism are very misunderstood, and they go through a lifetime of misunderstanding where, and I think society overall sees it, as a disease or a downfall or a shortcoming, where I think I view it differently. I see it as an opportunity of higher understanding, higher consciousness, and I believe that many autistic people are very gifted in a beautiful way that most people just don't understand. They can't see it, and therefore they become great artists. There's amazing concepts that they can conceive of because they just go to another place, which allows them to view things from a completely different perspective, which we just can't even wrap our heads around. And the thing is, I feel we're very lucky to be able to share that vision with them. And organizations like this that focus on that focus on shining that light for these autistic people to actually see that there are people that do care and do understand and are actually going out of their comfort zone to bring them into, a world that is a mutual ground. And that's a very important thing. And
I feel like you have such an insight and maybe an understanding. I mean, you've been through a lot in the last couple of weeks that I could only describe as bullying.
Yes.
And you've come through it with grace, and been kind of a role model for our kids for when people kind of gang on and don't, honestly, I don't get it. Do you get it? I don't get it.
I don't get hate. I don't understand it because let me say this much. Hate is not a reality. Hate is a concept which we conceive out of our own ego. But it's not real because, let me tell you something, if anybody on this earth has good reason to hate, it would be me, but I have no hate in my heart. Not for anyone. I mean, honestly, there's nobody on this planet that I would ever say that I hate because it's such an unrealistic emotion. Because hate would mean that I was willing to end somebody's life over a misunderstanding or a misjudgment or anything. And that's just such a lower form of thinking. That's such a low-level form of thinking. I can't go there.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
It's about positive thinking, positive mental attitude, positive mental change, and realizing your dreams and understanding that you can make anything possible, no matter who you are, whether you're autistic or not. And probably autistic people have a closer shot of getting there than we do because we're distracted by all these common day things.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's all about being able to focus on what you really want and making that a reality. And you can make your own reality. Anybody can. It's a gift we all have.
Corey, you're awesome. Isn't he awesome? He's wonderful. I can't wait for you to see Magnify tonight. They're the first act that's opening a band. If they're 15, 16, and 17 years old, the drummer is on the spectrum. You're going to love them.
Nice.
You're going to love them. Magnify. So I know they're going to call you any second, but thank you so much. Bless you as well. So nice to meet you. Have fun tonight. Thank you for being here and supporting. We appreciate it. Take care. Good night. We love you so much. Let's start there. And you are being honored tonight for your work for ACT Today, because even though you are just a wee thing, you have been working for ACT Today and helping out for many years. We've interviewed you several times. I can't believe what a lovely, I'm getting out of your life, what a lovely, beautiful young woman you're growing up to be. And so I'm going to shut up for a second and let you talk about why is this cause so important to you?
Well, I'd say this cause is super important to me because one of my best friends at Avery has autism, and it's just been almost like inspirational this year, grow up, and coming to Denim and Diamonds. It's just been super fun, and I've grown up to love this event. So.
Well, and we've watched you grow up, and we just love you. Last year you sang. Are you going to sing for us again tonight?
I am, yes. I'll be singing an Adele song, which I'm super excited about. So, yeah.
I'm excited about that. And now you're on School of Rock, and so many of your School of Rock friends have already come down the red carpet.
Yes.
Is this like the funnest job ever?
Yeah, I love going to events like this, especially with a great cause. And it's great to see all my cast members here and all my amazing team and my family, and it's just so great to see everyone here.
You're 13. How big of a team do you have, Brianna?
Let's see. I have like manager, agent, publicity team, parents, family.
It takes a village,
Lots
right?
of people.
It takes a,
Yeah.
Well, you look stunning. What are you wearing tonight? Do you know?
I'm wearing clothes. That's a start, right?
Absolutely. Well, we thank you. And you did a really big favor for ACT Today earlier this year. You did an amazing thing on the Huffington Post. You did a video letting people know about this cause. So as an autism mom, I just want to thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My son was diagnosed maybe rather early with PDD-NOS, right? And so I've been on the journey. He turned 17 on Monday. We got great information that he's not showing up as autistic in the testing. So I know the power of resources and early intervention, relentless, I don't want to say fighting, but advocating for your child to get the thing that you know in your heart of heart that they need. And I think for parents, sometimes it's a never give up moment. It's a never give up. I know you might think, oh, well, by this time we should see something different. Give it another 2 years because, take the progress and see it and not, we can even start comparing in our own community. And so, just taking us to church. I'm just telling you what my real experience has been. Yeah, that's been my experience. And to see, we just got our California assessments. He's like above in science. It's just one of those moments where you kind of go, oh, now it's all coming together because, you have to put the work in. You have to have a belief too. I believe very strongly if I didn't believe in my son, he wouldn't have a chance because it's my responsibility to know and believe that he can do whatever he puts his mind to do.
That's right. How old is he now?
He turned 17
Wow.
last week.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's fantastic. He's phenomenal. He's my blessing.
Okay.
He's my master teacher.
I love that. We do a segment on the show called Autism Family Portraits. Our studio is in Woodland Hills, so we'll have to have you come in. And if he would like to come, he can come and be on the show too.
Absolutely.
Because people need to hear the stories of how people, it was hard, but how you persevered.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is a hard journey, but I also think about neurotypical parenting. It's a hard journey. Parenting is, but we know we have another obstacle, and what I had to tell myself and what I had to learn was believe in the child that you knew he was when you carried him. Keep believing in that. It may look different than what you imagined, but keep believing in the child that you knew he would be when you were carrying him. And he is. He's even better. He really is.
So happy to meet you. So thrilled that you're here tonight.
I love Nancy, so of course I'm here, and I'm hoping to give heighten the awareness,
So how much fun was that?
That was so much fun and so fabulous.
I know.
And thank you for all that you do to make that happen for all of our kids. And
I thank everybody that makes it happen.
it's
A lot of
gotta
people
say thank you to
do
Amy
that.
Zhang,
Oh
especially.
my gosh,
what a saint
exactly.
she is. But we are
Okay,
like totally
so we're
out of time. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
We're not here tomorrow, but if you're really, really, really missing me, I'm doing a radio interview tomorrow on a show called Community and Friends that airs on Real Radio in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay.
And different places around Canada.
Good for
So
you.
from my kitchen, I'll be making turkey and talking on the
Great.
radio. That's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., 9 to 10 Pacific time. And then we're back here next Wednesday with Dr. Grant Boucher, who can't wait to be here with you guys, and with Nancy Allspot Jackson and a fabulous guest who I don't remember who it is right now.
I don't either.
Happy
So,
Thanksgiving. We love you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And
Give
be
yourselves
safe.
a hug from me.
And one for your kiddos as well, and one from me. All right? Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.